Hello there, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Changing Minds podcast. I'm Owen Fitzpatrick. And in this particular episode, we're going to be looking at ChatGPT and in particular, how to use ChatGPT, artificial intelligence, to make your life better. Now, it's not going to be a long episode, but it is something that I felt was very important to cover because I think there's an awful lot of stuff out there about how to use ChatGPT in your business. And indeed, we'll touch on some of those elements as well. But I feel that the power of what is now at our disposal, what we can use ChatGPT for, is far more than I would have expected. So a year ago, when I hadn't even heard of ChatGPT, I was very sort of skeptical of AI, artificial intelligence. Not skeptical in the sense that I didn't believe in it. Obviously, I know the potential and the power, but nothing really impressed me that much that we were able to do. And when ChatGPT came along and I started to experiment and play around with it, like so many of you listening and watching, I was like blown away. I was blown away with what you could do with ChatGPT. Now, we also want to be mindful of the fact that it's far from perfect. There's an awful lot of stuff that we cannot do as effectively as we can do without it. So, for example, some of the parts of writing, a lot of people are like writing books with ChatGPT, and personally speaking, I could pretty much read a book and tell you, in the most part, whether it was written by ChatGPT. There's a lot of the same old kind of trade phrases used over and over again. But I think what's undervalued and underspoken about, if that's a term, see, I'm making up stuff that ChatGPT would probably correct, is leveraging ChatGPT for your life. And so very quickly, what is ChatGPT? In a nutshell, it's a chatbot that you can pretty much ask anything to, and it accesses all of the internet up to September 2021. So it's a chatbot that you can ask anything to, and it leverages all the information that was on the internet as of September 2021. So it is a minefield of knowledge, so much valuable information that you can get from it. And it's really, along with Google, I suppose, and along with everything else, it's really put us in a position as human beings where we have all of the information that we need. We literally have all the knowledge at our fingertips that we need. And in many ways, in many cases, that's something that has been more and more obvious over the last few years. If you Google anything, you can find out pretty much all the information you want. And even most pieces of information that are behind paywalls, you could probably find that information out without the paywall. It's just disparate in lots of different places. And ChatGPT makes it even easier to find that out. Now, before I get into it, a couple of things to caution us with regards to ChatGPT. The first one is that because it's sourcing from the web, if you're using it, for example, for content, more often than not, you're going to be using other people's stuff because, once again, it's getting information from it. When we talk about ChatGPT being creative, most of the time it's borrowing, it's analyzing language, like trillions of pieces of data, analyzing language to then create the poem that you ask it to create or whatnot. And I'm not saying it's not creative, but I am saying there's a huge possibility of some form of plagiarizing information. And it's important to recognize that and to be mindful of that. And the other bigger one, a bigger caution I would have about using ChatGPT is this notion that everything it says is the truth. Because the reality is, just like there's an awful lot of bullshit on the internet in September 2021, there's even more in 2023. But what's really vital to understand is that if we are truly to be leveraging it as much as possible, we have to be aware of the fact that ChatGPT can sometimes put stuff across to you that isn't correct. So some of the studies that it mentions, some of the information that it mentions might not be accurate. So I say that to say you always want to double check your sources. You always want to double check the information that you get from ChatGPT, particularly if you're making big decisions on it. So with those two sort of caveats done, let me walk you through 6 different ways that you can use ChatGPT in your life and in your business. And I think by the end of this, I'm hoping you walk away with a clear understanding as to how you can start to use this incredible and free tool. I mean, I have the paid version, which costs me $20 a month, but there's also the free version, that you can do much of everything that I'm going to mention to you now. And the first is what I call Genius GPT. And Genius GPT is by using ChatGPT, you've got access to so much knowledge and information and wisdom out there. And I'm deliberately sort of looking at information, knowledge, and wisdom as three separate entities. So you got information, which could be correct information, or it could be misinformation, or it could be disinformation. But you've got information there. Then you've got knowledge, and knowledge is information that is useful to you. Knowledge is information that you have a degree of certainty about. You've tested it. And then you've got wisdom, and wisdom is the ability to apply the knowledge successfully to improve something in your life or something in your business. And that's just my definitions. Obviously, you'll find probably philosophical definitions of those that are far superior. But when I say Chat GPT, or Genius GPT in this case, is a great tool or resource for us to get a lot of great wisdom, it's because there's so many things that we can use ChatGPT for in this context. The first thing we can do is we can use it to explain complex things simply. One of the things I've done multiple times is whenever I have a question of something that I don't fully understand and I kind of understand it, I have used ChatGPT to help explain it to me. So for example, I'm obsessed with neuroscience. And one of the things that I was always curious about is how does dopamine affect serotonin levels in the brain, and how do serotonin levels affect dopamine levels? And I know it's a very complex sort of question to ask, but once again, I remember spending 2 or 3 hours in a rabbit hole, typing in every question I have about dopamine and serotonin in the brain. And what's great is that ChatGPT goes away and it looks and analyzes all these research papers and all these experts on the brain that have talked about this quite comprehensively. And it takes all of that and translates it for a simple brain like myself in a way that I can make sense of it. And once again, you want to double check it. You want to check in and make sure that you do your due diligence. But explaining complex ideas simply is one of my favorite ways to use ChatGPT. Something else I like to do is learn about new topics. Every time, I suppose, over the last 20, 30 years, 20 years or so since Google has been around, almost 20 years, maybe more. Yeah, more than 20 years. I've been using Google whenever I have a question. So I go, I wonder why, and it could be anything. It could be, I wonder, do squirrels and rabbits get on well, right? It could be something like that, which is, I think, is a very valid question. But whenever I have questions like this, I'll immediately, I would have immediately gone to Google, and sometimes they'll give me a bunch of ads, or sometimes it'll answer the question, but not really. Now, by using ChatGPT, it goes straight to the point and gives me the answer I'm looking for. So it's great for answering your questions. Again, you can double check it, but answering the questions that I have that are just random. So it's been a wonderful source of information. And not only that, but it allows me to dive into topics. So if I, for example, wanted to get into investing, then I could go, ChatGPT, I want you to build a curriculum for me on helping me to master investing. I've got no experience, so I want you to walk me through what are all the different lessons. And I would get it to give me a list of, in bullet points maybe, or in a structured outline, what are all the things I need to learn. And then I could and paste each one and say, teach this to me. And I would go through the list it's given me in order, and I would go in order, take each item that it said that I need to learn, and I would say, ChatGPT, I need you to explain this to me. So it would then deep dive into that topic and help me understand exactly what I need to know. Not only that, but it can also give me exercises. I might say, ChatGPT, I want you to give me an exercise that helps me to understand compound interest. Or you can ask it for examples. I want you to give me 3 examples of compound interest. And then you can say, I want you to give me an exercise that by doing this exercise, it will help me to understand compound interest even more effectively. I mean, incredible stuff. It also allows you to summarize books. Now, it has access to quite a lot of books already that were online up to that point. So you can ask it to give you a summary of various different types of books. You can also summarize the work of experts. So you can go on and go, give me a summary of all the most important ideas of Adam Grant or James Clear or Brené Brown. And you can ask ChatGPT to give you a summary of all these ideas, which again, really, really does help in giving you a sense as to what these experts are talking about. It can allow you to become literate in terms of financially literate or emotionally literate. It allows you to increase and improve your vocabulary because once again, you can ask it to teach you or train you in financial literacy and to understand all the different words. And then you can ask it to explain or define what it's talking about in that moment. You can ask it to offer you strategies to learn something better. So you can say, I'm learning this topic at the moment. Give me 5, 6 strategies that will help me to remember this information more effectively. Or you can ask it for metaphors that explain certain concepts more effectively. Then in turn will help you to recall that information better. And you can also ask it for book recommendations. You can say, look, I want to get better at this. Give me book recommendations on this topic. Now, again, the book recommendations will only go up to September 2021 currently. Nonetheless, it's still really great because, I mean, so many books have been written. I mean, there's millions and millions of books written, and ChatGPT has access to so many of them. So what I call Genius GPT is using it in this way. It's definitely, out of everything I use ChatGPT for, to be quite honest, it's the one I use the most, and it's the one that I love the most from it. The next thing that you can do is you can improve your language learning skills by ChatGPT. So language GPT, as I call it, is using ChatGPT to learn a second language. And there's a few ways to do this. You can ask it to help you practice. So you can say, ChatGPT, you're my language tutor. I'm going to ask you to give me some basic phrases that I have to translate. And then I want you to give me feedback on that translation, and we'll go back and forth having a conversation. And so you can set it up that way. So you can actively practice the vocabulary and whatnot. Or you can ask it to give you vocabulary. You can say, I need you to give me vocabulary for all of these words and give me the pronunciation and how to pronounce it as well. And it'll sound out and explain how to sound out the words. But also you can ask it about grammar, and you can ask it about the grammar rules and how things change. And I want you to walk me through really simply, how does the grammar change when you are speaking such and such a language? So once again, there's an infinite array of things that you can do with ChatGPT, and it has access to all these different languages. So it really is incredible what is possible. A third way to use ChatGPT is what I call Health GPT. And Health GPT is using it, it's obvious enough, to improve the quality of your physical health. And there's a few ways we could do this. First of all, you can type in your diet and ask it to improve it for your goals. So what I did was I gave it a sense as to what I eat most days or what I eat in a typical week. Then I told it my weight. I told it my height. I told it my age. I told it how much exercise I get, and I told it what I wanted to achieve. And then I said what I don't eat, what I don't like to eat. And it gave me back a proposal on how to tweak my diet. Now, if I didn't give it my diet, I would ask it to recommend a diet, and then it would have given me recommendations. Now, there might be some dietitians out there or nutritional experts out there that might say, well, no, you don't want to take advice from ChatGPT because once again, it's based upon the advice given on the internet, which, as we all know, is not always true. Nonetheless, in most cases, what I found was some pretty cool information. And also, if you have like stomach issues or stomach allergies, or if you have IBS or anything like that, you can also type that in, and it will ensure, for example, the FODMAP is, the right kinds of foods are incorporated in the diet that you're given. So it's quite cool for that. You can ask it for nutritional advice after giving context about what your goals are. And again, you can always ask it to explain itself. So it gives you its reasoning as well. So once again, you can almost test the reasoning to make sure that it makes sense from your perspective. You can also type in your weight and what kind of exercise you enjoy and have it build a fitness plan for you, again, giving it clear indications as to your goals. And by doing these kinds of things, it really will help you to optimize and improve your health, because it's like having access to your own nutritionist, having access to your own dietitian or your own physical trainer. And I'm not suggesting it's an adequate replacement, because I think you can't get better than having an actual personal trainer. You can't get better than actually having a nutritionalist or having a dietitian. At the same time, if you can't afford that, it's a wonderful option, is what I would suggest. Then we've got Coach GPT. So Coach GPT would be using ChatGPT to sort of help you the same way a life coach might help you. And so one of the things you could do is you could set up certain questions that you want. You could set up a prompt where you say, I want you to ask me these questions every single day wait for my answer, then ask the next question. So ask me them one at a time. And then what you do is you give yourself some questions that prompt you, like, for example, what are three things that you should feel grateful for? Or what is your one goal for today? What is the most important lesson that you learned yesterday? So you can give yourself these sort of this morning routine list of questions or evening routine list of questions, which you're asked. You simply type in the prompt and then it asks these questions. And you might say, well, if you already know what the questions are, why don't you just ask yourself? But there's something about being asked one at a time these questions in a live format, even if it's AI, that makes us more likely to respond when we're not as likely to respond if we've already written it down in a workbook or worksheets or whatnot. So you create a prompt where you say, ChatGPT, I want you to ask me these questions one at a time, wait for my answer, and I want you then to make suggestions on what you think I should do moving forward, or make suggestions on what's the most important thing I need to keep in mind today or whatever. It's really, really cool. You can get it to be a world-class coach. You can say, ChatGPT, you're now the world's greatest coach. I want you to help me to achieve my objective. To do so, you're going to ask me questions. You're going to wait for my response, and then you're going to keep following up with questions. And you're going to coach me towards having a plan that I need to implement in order for me to achieve my goals. So the output at the end will be having a plan that you've got me to agree to that will allow me to go from where I am to where I need to be. And that prompt will be really, really cool. It kind of gives you a chance to be coached. Once again, not a perfect substitution for the real thing, but still pretty good. You can also ask it the most optimal way to do things. So you decide you want to do something and you have a general idea as to the steps. You can ask it to give you an optimal way of doing that. Is there any steps that you need to take out? Is there any way to be more efficient? Is there any resources that can help you to do this better? You can take a strategy you're planning to implement and ask ChatGPT to make it better. You can ask it to organize your life, to help you build a second brain, which is a notion or idea coined by Thiago Forte, I think is his name. But he's written a book on the second brain, building a second brain. And I believe that was around by 2021, September. And so therefore, by that reckoning, if you're using ChatGPT, you could ask it to help you to build a second brain, which pretty much is storing everything in your brain out in a content management system or out in a database so that you can access it quite easily and effortlessly. So you free up more of your mental space to focus on other things that you need to do. Thiago Forte, I think. I pretty much butchered his name, so forgive me, Thiago or Thiage. Terrible. Absolutely terrible. See, I read these books, but I don't always hear them. So therefore, when I pronounce their names, they're kind of not very good. So if I've butchered the name, forgive me. If I've actually somehow miraculously articulated the name correctly, am I amazing? Aren't I just amazing? Anyway, so you can ask it to organize your life, to give you sort of different plans to achieve what you want. Again, you can plug in what your goals are, what your ideal lifestyle is, and ask it for suggestions. You can tell it what your current lifestyle is, what the ideal lifestyle is, what your current, where you spend your current time, where you want to spend your current time, and get it to give you tips or strategies and what to do to make it easier. You can ask it for life advice and wisdom. Say what age you are, what you're looking to do with your life, relationship advice, whatever it is, advice and wisdom that you want. You can ask it to help you to practice your critical thinking. So give you some exercises that get you thinking critically and get you better at that. You can ask it to walk you through a decision and say, look, I need your help in making a decision. I want you to ask me whatever questions will help you to help me make this decision. So you can get it to walk through with you and hold your hand, metaphorically speaking, of course, as you make an important decision with its help. So these are all really wonderful ways to leverage ChatGPT. The fifth one is more to do with if you're creating content of some nature, and this is specifically around improving your writing. But there's a few prompts you can use. One is you can take your writing, give ChatGPT an example of your writing, and ask it to analyze the style. So analyze the style, analyze the tone of this, and give me a sense as to what people's experience of me is like when they read this. What is the style? What is the tone like? So that ChatGPT will then describe to you style and tone of your writing, which is very, very helpful. You can give it a piece of writing and say, I need you to make this better, make it better written. And then also, but I also recommend when you do that is every change you make, I want you to explain why you made it. So it not only will show you better form of writing, it'll also justify why it made the changes it did, which is wonderful from a learning point of view. It really helps you to see where it took words out, where it changed expressions or words. It's phenomenal. You can take your writing, again, plug it into ChatGPT and compare the style to favorite authors. So you can go, okay, you write a bit on habits, let's say, and then you say, I want you to identify the style and tone of this and compare it to the style and tone of James Clear, who wrote the book Atomic Habits. And once again, it'll do that. It'll show you what you're doing similar to him, what you're doing different to him, what makes his stand out, what makes yours stand out. It's really cool. I've played around a lot with that sort of stuff. And then you can ask it if you're one of these people that just sends emails and you're always getting in trouble because they're too direct. You can turn around and say, put an email into ChatGPT and said, I need you to rewrite this email and make it more empathetic. Right now, you shouldn't have to do that. You should actually use a human skill. You certainly shouldn't be using ChatGPT to make you more human, right? That should be something you take on board yourself. But on the off chance that you want to become more human by learning from the humans that have communicated on the internet, then that's a good strategy. So once again, kind of cringe when I think about AI making our emails more empathetic, but it's taking from other humans. So, and the aim would be for you to learn the skill, not just like use it as a dispensing machine of empathy, like an empathy dispenser is not the way we want to think about ChatGPT. And then the final way is pretty much if you're in business is copywriting. You can take your writing, again, a piece of writing where you're trying to sell a product or get people to give you your email for a lead magnet, a newsletter, and you ask ChatGPT to make the writing more compelling, more engaging, more persuasive. You can ask it to act like a copywriting expert. I want you to act like this expert or that expert, and I want you to rewrite this with their tone and their style. And explain again why you made the changes. In both cases, you explain why did you make the changes you did. It can be very helpful. And you could also ask it for some ideas on marketing content or ad content. Give me some ideas to market this. So you tell them what you want to market and then you ask it for ideas to provoke thoughts in you. As you can see, ChatGPT is rich source of wisdom that allows us to be able to leverage so much of the internet in a way that is very focused for our own goals and our own outcomes. So highly recommend you use it for your life and to improve and optimize the way in which you live your life. Me personally, I'm using it for the writing stuff and analyzing my style and comparing it to some other authors. I'm using a little bit of copywriting. I'm not using it for content creation with the exception of like improving my writing, just because I feel I want to be writing about my own topics. But the Genius GPT stuff, the learning about topics and going deep and asking it questions and doing research on it where I get it to translate complex research. Oh, I use that a lot and it's terrific. So hope you found this useful. I hope you're going to leverage ChatGPT even more effectively moving forward. But for now, take care, be well, and may the force be with you all. Take it easy. Bye for now.